BlizzPro's coverage of BlizzCon 2016 is brought to you by SteelSeries. We are esports. Welcome back to BlizzPro's BlizzCon 2016 coverage. We have some really special guests we get to speak with, Samwise, Didier, and John Hodgson. John Hodgson. There we go. See, I already messed up. All right, John Z. That's right, John Z. All righty. Well, let's just get started. Like, what does a project like Heroes of the Storm mean for you, Samwise? Just because you're kind of able to kind of do what you want, I guess, really, to a certain extent. You're able to go a little more crazy than a normal project at Blizzard.
Yeah, well, we're able to, first of all, have all the different games that we've made over the years, the older ones, the newer ones, all the way, Lost Vikings, all the way to Overwatch, in one game, which is super cool to create art for because you have a very broad palette that you can choose from. And artistically, the game with the skins is the most fun because sometimes we can go more heroic, sometimes we can go cross sort of franchise, Warcraft and Starcraft, vice versa, and then sometimes we can just put characters like Abathur in baby pajamas and have fun with it, or put Asmodan in some basketball shorts. So a lot of that comes from the community as well, so it's kind of fun to be able to give a nod when the community has some peaches that they throw at us that we like. But it's just a super fun game. That is probably the most fun game that I've created since when we were working on Warcraft 3 and just coming up with what the world of Warcraft will be.
Are you asking what my experience is? I don't get to do everything that I like to do like Samwise does. He calls the shots in a lot of different ways, but what is it? The question was, what does it mean for me to? Yeah,
to be able to work on a project where you kind of have a little bit more creative freedom
than
a Warcraft where you gotta be fantasy.
So I really like to think of it as Blizzard Plus, right? Like, because you see all these epic characters like Arthas or Ragnaros or Lost Vikings, and those games tell the story about those heroes, and those heroes have done certain things or they are certain ways. Heroes of the Storm really puts those heroes into players' hands for maybe the first time in a long time, depending on what kind of game you're talking about, and they get to do even more. You get to see a little bit more into their gameplay, into what kind of characters they are. So take even a recent character like Tracer. It's just extremely strong character design, very interesting, spunky, full of life, and we get to take that and explore it even more in Heroes through the gameplay of that game of Heroes in particular, but also through like talents and through our heroic choices. The way that we've built our game says, what else can this hero do? And we have a lot of fun trying to think of what those things are, and I think players have a lot of fun exploring that with us.
So I wanted to follow up really quickly with how fun it can be to be all creative like this. How difficult is it when you have an event like Machines of War and you only have X number of heroes that you can have a fun Starcraft-related skin for, like Rexar and like Butcher? I mean, how do you even come down to those exact heroes from the large pool that continues to grow every week, it seems like?
Right. Well, a lot of it deals with when's the last time this hero had a skin, or a lot of times it's just like, this would be perfect with this character. A lot of times it's just which character do we want to do first. We can say, oh, let's do this one with the Starcraft. Let's save this one for the next one. We still have the idea. So we've had the idea for the Rexar skin for ages, but we kind of waited till we had a really cool event we could put it with. Instead of just releasing it and having it be cool, now we could release it and have it just be this cool monumental experience of Rexar in StarCraft.
We actually teased in that video a certain Murden skin that looked like it might have been from StarCraft. So
Sumro too was in the key art. His banner was hanging out somewhere.
So again, speak exactly what Sammy said, right? It's going to come, and we want to explore all those cool ideas. It's just a matter of time.
You guys remember the movie Hot Fuzz?
Mm-hmm.
And he holds up the two movies, and he's like, whoa, which one? He's like, not which one first?
There you go.
That's what it feels like with this game constantly.
So the team has talked about with Samuro what a long process it was and how he was one of the first heroes that you guys started working on. What hero just kind of clicked where it came naturally? What hero was the one that was just like the easiest and the fastest? What was that process like?
All the heroes that we've done, goodness, we've had as many clicks as we've had long hauls, right? So I'll tell you what didn't click immediately. It was either Varian or Ragnaros. Like, we knew we were going to do them, but it was a long road to development. I guess recently, what came out recently? Zarya really clicked. Yeah, Zarya came together pretty simply. There was some contention about our second heroic, what that would be, but I think we homed in on one that was really exciting and fun. See, Dahaka was tough. Samuro obviously was tough. His issue was he wasn't really positioned in the right moment to have the full experience, the full package, which is why he was shelved for so long. But once we finally got back and said, okay, it's time to dust Samuro off and bring him back into the fold, then actually he did click pretty well. We had his kit down dirt simple, really clean design, but because of the way that he plays with his mirror images and the way that he can do image swapping with his second heroic, you get a lot of nuance in there, and the players build all of that design depth themselves. So it's really hard to pick one that just clicked.
So when it comes to hero releases, how much of it is that the hero's ready and it's time for him, or how much of it is it's the right spot for him in the game and the meta right now?
Well, we're considering the meta and the right spot for the hero when we initially create the hero, right? Like, when we initially have those ideas, we have concept of, well, it's been a while since we've done a support, or, it seems like we need another ranged assassin, or we need another solo tank. So let's put one on the docket and we'll start building that. But obviously, these heroes take a long time to develop, so the meta might very well change by the time we get out there. So we can't really count on that. Sure. We just know that we have a series of heroes, and we want them to be diverse, both artistically and with our IPs, and with Blizzard IPs, and with in a gameplay sense as much as possible. So that's what's really drives that, not necessarily what's going on in the competitive world, because we can't know it at the time that it releases.
So how has the design process changed from back when you were in alpha and beta to what you've learned through the last few years?
I think we've learned a lot, and we've gotten a lot faster at what we're doing. This question came up in an earlier interview, actually. It was when we started, when we had open beta, a closed beta before that, we were pretty slow and steady. It was just the core heroes experience, and we were just getting our sea legs on how to set up a pipeline so that we could continue delivering new heroes, new battlegrounds, new game modes, all kinds of meta progression things, new features like death recap and the MVP system. We needed to have that core gameplay in place before the team as a whole, Team 1 is what we're called internally, to shift from the mindset of a box product, which is traditionally on Team 1 been most recently Starcraft, to a constant flow of content for a free-to-play title, Heroes of the Storm. Took us a while to get there, but now I think it's pretty obvious. We have hero every 3 weeks or so. We have consistent balance patches even more frequently than that. We're able to react very quickly to bugs and to game-breaking balance at a moment's notice or within a couple of days. So we've definitely got it down pretty well, and that's how it's changed.
When you're initially designing a hero, obviously you're going to have the master skin and the regular skin. What is that process like on deciding what exactly goes into that? I think most recently Varian, obviously you guys announced, kind of is the most recent living version of Varian. How do you decide on what time period of these heroes' timelines you guys decide to initially pick for that initial skin?
Well, artistically, we have years and years on a lot of these heroes of different looks to choose from. Just think about Thrall, the different looks that he's had. I think he's bald now, right? Where, back when he was rocking the black Doom plate. There's a lot of areas that you can choose from. So with Varian, he is still relatively new, But he's gone on a couple iterations in WoW. So what we've sort of done is just pick some of the elements we like of all of them. Take some of the concept art that we've seen and take elements from that and sort of just mold it into, it's still Varian, but into what the Heroes version of Varian is. And with Heroes, the one that we have is almost the most youthful looking of Varian. He's not young or whatever, but he's not sort of the hardened sort of version that you see in the WoW. So that was
Lost
the whale
Vikings
call.
just a while, right?
Yeah. There's,
Sorry about that,
there's all
everyone.
kinds of whales, floating around here. But what we do is, like I was saying, we pick the best elements of all these, and we sort of just blend them into what is the Heroes of the Storm version of the character.
So for designing Varian gameplay-wise, how difficult was it to really map out that talent tree to be
It was
warrior?
the challenge,
Okay.
for sure. Most heroes, we start with the base kit. We start with the core concept. Varian was different in that we started actually with the talent tree. So we knew that, on this tier we want to have an option for survivability. In this next tier we want to have your core option for how you're going to, whether or not you're going to be more of a tanky warrior, more of a frontline warrior, or you're going to be more of an assassin style character. And then we have a talent tier where this is the talent tier that's going to be dependent on your team composition. Here's a talent tier that's going to be dependent on the enemy team's composition. So I wasn't lead designer on that. That would be Ken Eric, but he was describing the process on how he came up with that, and it was entirely focused initially on how the talents are organized. So that fed into the whole concept of really we're trying to double down on the whole multi-class reactive kind of being able to read a battlefield situation and then select the perfect talent that will hopefully deliver your team to victory, right?
I was fortunate enough to be able to take a campus tour earlier this week, and the museum in the lobby, Samwise, is full of heroes, but it's full of a lot of artwork that you do as well. So one of my favorite things when I was going through was the ballerina Sonya skin. So obviously you're always creating things. Can you maybe tell some stories about skins or ideas that you've come up with that maybe weren't right for the game but might be entertaining or funny?
Well, I think there's, I don't know if there's any that aren't right for the game. It's just, is it now or is it later? So with characters, say Sonya, the ballerina one, it was just a cool idea because this character is all about just being this mighty warrior and, wielding gigantic swords or gigantic axes, whatever, in Diablo. When we brought her into Heroes of the Storm, we have sort of our own version of her, right? It's the more iconic, the two swords one, and she's usually, with I think it was the Wrath set that we put on her from the Warcraft franchise. We did a Super Sonya, and so those are all kind of examples of serious or maybe pop culture ones. The ballerina one is sort of what we did with Abathur when we put him in the pajamas with the little choo-choos and everything. It's something that you probably wouldn't expect to see. Now, we've seen that a lot of people really like the cool heroic, mighty skins. We've seen the ones that people really like, the cross, Starcraft going into Warcraft or vice versa, and then people like the humorous skins. So it's all sort of a balance, sort of like when John was saying, do we want to release a support? Do we want to release, an assassin? It's also, do we want this character to have a serious skin or a, Blizzard IP one, or do we want to do something fun? So we just haven't found the time yet to do that with Sonya yet, but the concept is done. It's just going to be up to when we find it in our schedule to actually create it.
Nice.
So back to another hero you guys announced this weekend, Ragnaros.
That's the fire guy?
That's the fire guy.
Got it.
But how difficult was that getting kind of the art assets into that ability he has where he goes on to the forts now? That seems like it would probably be a technical challenge, transforming him from where he is there into the building or where it was or where it is on your team.
Well, artistically, I don't really think there's a lot that we can't do. It's all about can we technically do it? Is the character built to be able to do that? The one that you see on the building is the one that we really, actually, I think at times had tried out in the game as the original size, but it was obviously way too big. So people say they want Ragnaros, so we had Ragnaros, and then people go, we can't play the game with Ragnaros, he's too big, he's hiding things, so we have to make sure that whatever we create artistically works with design, works with the game, and this is where a lot of when we hire people, we say, I don't want just an artist. Anyone can make great artwork. I want a game artist. I want someone who can make great artwork for a game, so it doesn't break the game, or that it looks good from the correct, kind of top-down angle, things like that. So Ragnaros was a little bit of a balance that we had to, strike up. Is he big enough? Is he too big? Currently, I think he's just right. I think he's around the size of Cho'Gall, but with a couple little more spikes sticking up. So design was cool with it, and we were cool with that. And then we were able to get super sized when he goes onto the keeps and buildings.
In the State of the Game panel, they talked a little bit about the reworks that have been done, which have obviously been pretty extensive. Without giving a timeline, obviously, and anything like that, can you talk about some of the heroes that might be on the radar for future reworks?
Are you talking about the heroes that they talked about their reworks, like Dahaka, Karazim?
Yeah, Vala, different ones like that.
Right, so I know Dahaka and Karazim, and I think there's one more. Vala is coming out really soon.
Okay.
After that, I can't really say what we're looking into.
Come on, John. It's cool.
I guess maybe I could say that, yeah.
Just a little hint.
Yeah, I can't really say.
Can you say the role? Is it warrior? Is it assassin?
Needless to say,
There we go.
needless to say, we're looking at all the heroes. We're looking at specifically, and you can use your. Here's our values, rather. If a hero's talent tree has not been updated in a long time, if it appears that the talents that players pick are kind of the same every time, like if it seems pretty stale, probably that hero is going to get shaken up a little bit. If it seems just underpowered in general, then that hero might get shaken up a little bit. Although we tend to lean towards numerical tweaks of the base kit and of certain talents first before we go through an entire hero rework. We're really just looking at the talent system and making sure that that's not stale, that there's a lot of really meaty options that players can pick from at each tier, and that really focus the character into playing one way or another, right? If the character doesn't have that and they kind of have just one way to play, be on the lookout for a rework.
Back to a little bit of the art stuff. Obviously, you guys just released Machines of War, just recently finished the Machines of War event, and were able to come out with the Starcraft Battlegrounds. What was that like for the team to be able to do something like that? Obviously, the Diablo ones came before that, and that was a really cool, distinct style, but being able to bring the sci-fi style to a traditionally kind of medieval style game in this genre. What was that for the team? What did that mean for the team to be able to explore StarCraft in a MOBA environment?
It's kind of funny because it was actually a piece of cake, because a lot of the Heroes team was the StarCraft team. We had transitioned off of, I think it was around the end of Heart of the Swarm, to having our guys work on Heroes, and then the rest of the StarCraft team continued on finishing with Legacy of the Void. So a lot of our guys had already worked on StarCraft for years, knew the style, knew the characters, knew the look, everything. And to be able to finally bring that into Heroes was cool because, as you said, it's sci-fi. I don't think that that's really been done as much as, say, the traditional fantasies. Oh, there's green grass and green trees, yay, and gray castles, right? This was cool seeing a sci-fi one, and then even cooler was it's the coolest sci-fi in the world, which is StarCraft. So we were able to sit there and have, we were able to have, all of our characters that have never been in Star. Raynor already knows about it, Kerrigan does, but Diablo's never been to the Koprulu sector. So it was the first time for a lot of our kids to go to a new land and play and beat up people.
Yeah, for sure.
For you, John, I guess with all the battlegrounds going on, what's the limit for you guys? Are you guys kind of thinking of a hard limit on how many battlegrounds get put in? I know there was a talk about a rotation potentially for battlegrounds as well.
There's no limit to the number of battlegrounds we can consider. We are discussing how many battlegrounds is okay in the rotation, right? How much is enough for players to grok, but we have a good strategic depth to the kinds of maps that players need to consider when they're playing the game, right? So we need there's some kind of sweet spot there that we're homing in on. But as to how many battlegrounds we're going to make from now until 5 years from now,
Who knows?
There's no telling, right? Especially with the brawl mode too, right? Like that's a whole different set of battlegrounds in and of itself, right? The Blackheart's Revenge map is entirely dedicated towards brawl right now. our first attack defend map, and we could see a lot more unique one-off kind of maps that you could see in just Brawl instead of the game proper, rather. So it's going to be a lot, and they're going to be all fun, hopefully.
Nice. So, kind of touching on the StarCraft maps, there was some comment during the first event that maybe there were some challenges and there wouldn't be any more future events. But then you guys kind of took what you learned, did the StarCraft event. So again, transition that forward. What have you learned from the StarCraft event that we can expect to kind of affect future events, assuming there are more?
The StarCraft event definitely came in, I think, short and sweet was really what we were thinking of. The Diablo event kind of ran on a little long. That was the biggest thing. Right. There was a little bit of brain drain on the development side of like, oh yeah, more Diablo. I mean, we love Diablo, but like, Heroes is so much more than Diablo, right? It's all of the IPs. So StarCraft, we tended to focus in a lot more on what was really cool. We had a good cadre of heroes that we wanted to ship with it, and we homed in on what was really neat on the StarCraft side, like Zerg Rush and nuclear missiles, and that just it gets the old StarCraft juices flowing. So I think we learned a lot. We want to continue modeling stuff off of the StarCraft event rather than the Diablo event for future events in different universes.
Nice.
So Samwise, with Samuro coming out, Samuro, how much did that mean to you, being such a legacy character that's been a part of kind of Blizzard lore for so long, and something you created very early on in your career at Blizzard, and seeing that come to life here in Heroes of the Storm? Just what did that mean to you, and talk a little bit about what you felt watching that Samuro Chen video, which was just a blast to watch.
Yeah, well, the video specifically I really love because it takes a lot of my love for the sort of the Japanese cinema, Japanese martial arts, just martial arts in general, right? And to do it with the sort of black and white film, it was a little bit less polished than some of our other ones, but it really felt like it embodied the spirit of it. And Samuro specifically, he was like I said, one of my old Dungeons and Dragons characters, and we put him into War 3, and he became a huge, fan favorite. And I was at the time, a lot of us were just doing the voices, so I did the voice back then. I didn't know that this time around they were still cool with me doing the voice. So to be able to bring back one of my favorite characters, him with Mirrodin, the Mountain King from War 3, right? Those were my favorite characters. I did a picture of both of them fighting at one time for one of our books, and to have those two in the game, and also with Chen, who is like again another character I really love. Like, I was really hoping that we could get Mirrodin at the very final shot, where it's Chen, Samuro, and they're having another round to have Mirrodin in there too, but it didn't really fit. He wasn't anywhere else in the thing, so people would just be going, up there's Sam just putting in all three of his children into the thing, nepotism, but it's cool that the community itself really loves it. I can't tell you how many times here people just kind of run up and shout a Samuro line and then run off like laughing. I'm like,
My blade be thirsty.
taste of my blade. Yes. So it's again, all these Blizzard characters that we've worked with over the years, every time one of them gets in Heroes, it's just awesome. It's just cool. It's another one of the kids that we grew up with coming into our playground and playing with the, all the different kids.
So you talk a little bit about kind of your favorites. For you, obviously, there's the emotional connection to these characters that were your D&D characters and such. But when you play Heroes, just, again, for the lighter side, what are the characters or the roles that you guys really find fun?
Well, oddly, Chen, actually, was the first hero that I worked on personally, that I designed. And so getting to play Chen is still a lot of fun for me. Been also really enjoying Greymane and Ragnaros especially recently, so...
My favorites to play are any of the warriors and pretty much any of the specialists. I'm not a huge player of support. I like to be sort of... I like people to take care of me while I go beat up on people. That's how it was in World of Warcraft and any of the fighting games. I've always preferred the characters that are a bit more just straightforward and fun. So specifically characters that I've played a lot are Sonya. I love Sonya. Anu Barak is one of them. Of the sort of the warriors, I like the ones that also do a lot of damage. So even though I love ETC, I don't play him as much because he's just always around, but he doesn't seem to be delivering the final, face melt or whatever it is. And then specialists, like Nazebo, I still love. He's just super cool to play. Sylvanas is awesome. Again, it allows me to kind of just run around and do my own thing without worrying about someone necessarily, giving me the healing.
Well, that's all the time we have. I'm sure we could talk about this for another hour or so, but thank you guys so much, Samwise and John and
My
Alebeard.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure. Well, thanks.
Yeah.
See you guys.
BlizzPro's coverage of BlizzCon 2016 is brought to you by SteelSeries. We are esports.